Hello, everyone. We're so glad to have you right now. My name is Mr. Young. I'm the Career Development Facilitator at Fort Mill High School, and I am glad to have with us today the chair of Winthrop University's Social Work Department, Dr. Anthony Hill. He's going to give a brief introduction of himself. But the reason why we have him speaking is because uh, during this National Career Development Week, when I'm speaking with students, so many of you will say, I want to be in a career where I can help people. And we think that's great. And I can't think of another profession that helps people as much as social workers. So we are glad to have Dr. Hill here, and he's going to give us a brief introduction about him and some of the things that he does at Winthrop.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Anthony Hill, and I am chair of the Department of Social Work at Winthrop University. Uh, what we do in social work is it varies depending on the setting, but I'll get into the specifics with Mr. Young in just a bit. So I've been a practicing social worker for many years. I'm not only a social work educator, I actually practice social work. My area of specialty is financial social work. And you'll learn through this talk that the social work profession is very diverse. So I don't want to take too much time talking about myself. I really want to jump into answering the questions that Mr. Young has for me.
Awesome. And I'm excited to hear about this too. I have a few friends who are social workers, and I must say, I haven't heard any of them speak about the financial side of it. So I'm really intrigued. So, like I said, let's go ahead and hop right in. Tell us, how do social workers help people?
Well, social work is a very diverse profession, and I prefer to use how the social workers empower people
Mm,
because help implies that individuals or other systems they don't have strengths. So social workers help people identify their strengths and use those strengths to help solve their own problems. So we're a conduit, if you will, to helping people reach their full capacity.
that's great. That is awesome. I love that. I like that reframing of empowering. I love that. Um, so obviously you are at Winthrop University, a great institution. I'm an alum, so I'm a little biased, but we're going to run with it. What type of education is necessary to be a social worker?
Well, there are two types of social work. There are BSW level social workers, which means you have your bachelor's degree in social work, and there's the MSW level, master's degree in social work, and of course, you can further your education to get a doctorate or PhD or DSW, Doctor of Social Work. So the important part to remember if you're interested in being a social worker regardless at the BSW, the bachelor's level, or the master's level, you must attend an accredited program. And social work programs are accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. So if you're looking into going to school to become a social worker, make sure that your program is accredited by the Council on Social Work Education. And I'm pleased to announce that both the MSW and BSW programs here at Winthrop are accredited. We just actually found out yesterday that we've been re-accredited through 2029.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That is an awesome achievement.
Thank you. It was a lot of hard work.
And just so that the students know, where can they find if or where um, if a program has been accredited or not?
That's an excellent question. Well, to make it easy, you can just come to Winthrop. You know we're accredited. But if you're if you're interested in other programs, you can go to the Council on Social Work Education's website, and they have a listing of all the accredited programs. And that website is cswe.org. That's cswe.org.
We're going to see if I have it right. Okay, see, we have that one right. I'm going to add this here at the bottom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome, good stuff. So students, remember, some of this information is things that will be handed to you, but occasionally you will need to do some research on your own. And in that exploration, you may be surprised at what you find. So please, ma'am, please, sir, go ahead and look at www.cswe.org and find some more information about accredited social work programs. But like Dr. Hill said, Winthrop's fine. Winthrop's fine too. Uh, Now, because we don't want to be too biased, outside of Winthrop, in addition to Winthrop, what are some other great social work programs?
Yeah, again, another excellent question. Of course, I'm biased, and I think Winthrop, we are the best. Our motto is excellence matters. But there are other programs, and what I think you should look at is what the program's emphasis is. So, for example, our program is stresses the empowerment practice model, where we look at the individual strengths and use those strengths to help clients or to empower clients to reach their full capacity. So, but they're great schools. The University of South Carolina has a really good social work program. UNC Charlotte has a really good program. Many of the programs that are local are, yeah, I would say are really good programs. They all have different areas of emphasis. And as I say here at Winthrop, we focus on empowerment practice. But you'll get a really good education if you stay locally. Of course, we want you to come to Winthrop, but the local schools are pretty good choices as well.
So it sounds like if students do a little bit of research, they find out the peculiars and the particularities of of the different programs. They may find something that really fits their personality and how they approach this type of help.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Sounds good. Now, with every career, no matter whether you're a social worker, a teacher, a CEO of a business, there are highs and lows. Okay? So, what are some of the highs and lows, the ups and downs of being a social worker?
That's an excellent question. Now, again, social work is a very diverse profession. So we have medical social workers, we have social workers that work in hospice, we have social workers who work in policy. So when you're trained as a social worker, particularly at the bachelor's level, that's what you call a generalist practice. So we train you here at Winthrop and the other social work programs to work with individuals, families, groups, and communities as your client systems. And then you can work with those systems in different settings. So it really depends on the system that you're working with and the setting that you're working in, which influence the highs and lows. But I think a risk for all social workers, and not just social workers, but anybody who works, is burnout. If you're working with working with people who are experiencing difficulty, sometimes we get what's called compassion fatigue, where that this dealing with issues every day begins to take its toll. So it's really important that as social workers or anyone who works in the human services field, that you take time to self-care. And actually, we have a code of ethics that kind of guides social work practice, and that code of ethics mandates that social workers practice self-care to help prevent burnout.
That's actually a great segue to another one of our questions. So you mentioned burnout, which is obviously something that we have to manage in all of our careers. But what are some ways that you found social workers manage the stress from their position?
Well, there are different ways to engage in self-care. For example, I like to read as a way to kind of de-stress from the day. Meditation is a good way. Exercise is certainly a good way to help deal with the stresses of a social work position. Talking with your friends, talking with other social workers, um, they are all good ways. But it's really how you as an individual kind of debrief or de-stress from a stressful day. Taking a walk around the block, playing with your dog, playing video games, any healthy activity that allows you to kind of, push all that negativity from the day away is a form of self care.
I love it. I love it. And what's great about what you just detailed is those methods can apply no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so I hate to ask this question, but I know some of my students are thinking it. Salary range as an entry level social worker. What should they expect?
Okay, let me start by debunking a myth. Many people say social workers don't make a lot of money, and I want to say there's nothing in our code of ethics that says that a social worker has to live in poverty. So
Good to know.
it really depends on the setting that you work with and as well as the client population. But on average, a BSW level social worker can make from 48 to 66,000, and that so many factors play into that salary range. Again, it's depending on your client system and the setting in which you're working, and also if you have a social work license. So many states, including South Carolina, North Carolina, require social workers to have state licensure, which means that your salary is increased because of that extra level of specialization.
And how does one go about getting this licensure? Is that included in the actual BSW or MSW program?
No, that's an excellent question. No, it is not. It's a separate licensure is a separate entity. So after you finish your coursework, you are applied to the state for licensure. So if you're in the Carolinas, you apply for either North Carolina or South Carolina for licensure, and you have to take a test. And that test is administered through the Association of State Social Work Boards, and each state has different requirements for licensure. So there's no cookie cutter approach to licensure. Each state varies, but it is a test. And at the bachelor's level, as soon as you finish your coursework and you have your diploma in hand, you can sit for your licensure exam.
Awesome, awesome. So this licensure is one way of moving up and advancing in your career.
That's correct.
Okay. Are there other ways of advancing and kind of moving forward past the entry level position?
Well, yeah, the beauty of social work is that I like to say your only limitation is a lack of entrepreneurial spirit. So if you have that get up and go, you can really advance in social work. So many social workers who begin at an entry level go on and get their licensure. And once you have licensure, you can advance into a supervisory position, for example, or you may go into working in child welfare and figure out maybe child welfare isn't for me. The beauty of a social work degree is you take those skills and you can apply them to a different setting. So, for example, if you're in child welfare, you say, "Oh, I feel like I'm getting burnt out, and maybe child welfare isn't for me." You may want to go into policy and help to formulate policy that impacts child welfare. So it really is depending on the individual how they want to use their social work degree to advance in their careers.
Dr. Hill, I tell you, you are such a wealth of knowledge. I'm learning a whole lot, and I hope that our students are as well, just gleaning this information. Uh, Before someone were to get into social work, what are a few things, maybe like the top three things they need to know before they begin this type of career?
Well, I think it's important if you're interested. A lot of people want to go into social work to help people. Again, I prefer empower people because individuals have their own unique talents, strengths, and abilities, and the social workers we're the conduit to help mobilize those individuals' talents, strengths, and abilities. And I think just do your homework because you may have a notion of what social work is, but as I said, social work is kind of how you define it and how you use your social work degree. For example, yeah, as a social worker, I ran a large nonprofit agency in Northern Virginia, where I'm from. I also worked in the office of the chief medical examiner, where I worked with families who wanted to identify or had to come in to identify their loved ones who were deceased as a result of homicide or suicide. I'm a financial social worker, so you kind of think about what you want to do. And I would like sometimes people don't go into social work early on because they don't really know what social work is. So, for example, a lot of people say that they want to help people, so they go into psychology. Now, there's nothing wrong with going into psychology, but you should know, and your students should know, that the number one mental health profession is social work. There are actually more clinical social workers than psychologists and psychiatrists combined. Social work, and of course, you have to have your master's in social work and have a clinical license. But you can do practice. You can practice therapy, group therapy, individual therapy as a master's level social worker with a clinical license. So I would just encourage your students, if they're interested in the field of social work, do your research. And again, because you're trained to work across different client systems and in different settings, you can apply those social work skills to a number. It's there's no limitation in what you can do with your social work degree.
This is awesome, and I tell you, Dr. Hill, we haven't been on this in this interview for a long time, but I feel like I have gleaned so much information from you. Thank you so very much. Before we let our students go, do you have any last parting words?
Come to Winthrop if you're interested in social work. Have that emphasis in empowering practice.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Hill. Students,
Oh, and one other thing. I'm
oh,
sorry. This is a good thing that you should know that if you earn your BSW, you can get your master's in 1 year. So think about that. If you have your BSW and you have good grades, you can get your master's rather than 2 years to get a master's, you can get your master's in 1 year. So that is a cost saving in and of itself if you think about it.
sure is.
So let's say if you're interested, again, not to knock psychology, it's a wonderful profession, but if you want to do therapy, you really have to have a PhD in psychology to do therapy. With social work, with your master's and your clinical license, you're able to do therapy. And as I said earlier, social work is the largest mental health profession, um, much larger than psychology and psychiatry combined.
And I tell you, what's beautiful about it is the fact that you open the door for so many more opportunities and possibilities for our students. Definitely saving time, definitely saving money by only going to, get your master's in 1 year, being able to start your practice right away. Dr. Hill, thank you so very much. I believe now I believe I saw something, an award, Social Worker of the Year for 2021.
Yes, thank you for that. Um, I won the 2021 Social Worker of the Year from the South Carolina chapter of the National Association of Social Workers. That was a huge honor.
And we are honored and privileged to have been able to speak with you today. So thank you again,
And
Dr.
I
Hill.
will add that one of our BSW students was named the BSW Student of the Year by the same organization, the National Association of Social Workers South Carolina chapter.
So
So
it's
we're
not,
doing great things here at Winthrop, Department of Social Work.
I was about to say, so it sounds like Winthrop really is a great place for our students to get started here.
It is an excellent place if you're interested in social work. Come on and see us.
Awesome. Dr. Hill, thank you once again. Students, be on the lookout. More video interviews will be coming this week. And once again, hope you have a great rest of the day. See y'all later. Bye bye.
Thank you.